Hello, and welcome back to the Pomegranate Girl, a knitting and sewing podcast. I am Angharad, or Annie, and I live in the southwest of England, in Bristol, in the UK. And yeah, you're really welcome. This is episode 7, and I've got quite a lot to talk about, so it's going to be maybe a bit of a long one. So yeah, we'll just get straight into it. I firstly just wanted to quickly talk about the KAL, or the knit along that I'm hosting, which is the Story Knits KAL, and it began on the 20th of March. And yeah, I already know a few people are joining in. I've started some of my projects, and the premise of this knit along is to knit an item or knit with yarn that is inspired by a story. So that could be a book, a film, a TV show, a whole range of different things. It's quite an open-ended kind of prompt for the KAL, and yeah, it goes on until the 22nd? No, it goes on until mid-June, which ends on the summer solstice. So yeah, it started on Ostara, which is the spring equinox, and it goes up until the summer solstice. So you've got about 3 months. Yeah, I've done my maths right. And yeah, I will talk about some of my projects for the Story Knits KAL a little bit later. But first, let's get into finished objects. So I have 3 finished objects today, and one of them I don't have with me as it was a gift. So I'll insert a photo here or here, and it is a pair of socks that I knit for my mum, kind of unintentionally. I received the yarn at Christmas. It was a Christmas Eve cast on set from Stripy Cat Yarns, and I chose the Cozy Christmas at the Cabin, something along those lines. That was the name of the colourway. And I chose her new 100% non-superwash no nylon sock yarn. I believe it's 100% Corriedale, which I'd never worked with for socks, so that was really fun. It's very soft yarn. It's really beautiful, like so soft. Yeah, I'll be really interested to see how it wears. So yeah, it was a self-striping yarn set. I just did a really plain sock. I did a 2x2 cuff for about 1.5 inches, and then I did just vanilla stockinette leg and a heel flap and gusset, and then a umbrella toe, which was something I hadn't tried before. So it's kind of similar to a hat decreases, where you do kind of your decreases every certain number of rounds. So instead of doing them on the 2 sides, it creates a more like rounded toe. So yeah, I tried that, and yeah, I did like the colours, but they weren't really the kind of colours I'd usually wear. So my mum said that she liked them, and we've got very similar size feet and similar size, like I would knit her a 64 stitch sock, which I'd already started. So yeah, she was the lucky recipient, and she's already started wearing them. I saw her wearing them last weekend when I went home for Mother's Day in the UK. So yeah, they are my first finished object, and yeah, I'll see how they wear. I do have some 100% Corriedale sock yarn from Woolen Twine that I have got in my stash that I've had for a while, so I'll be interested to knit those later this year, hopefully, and I can kind of see for myself how Corriedale works for me for socks. If you're new here, I knit primarily with no nylon non-superwash yarn in general, but especially for socks. There's always like exceptions, as I'll talk about later on, but yeah, for the most part I kind of prefer knitting with that, just my own personal preference. So yeah, finished object number 1. Finished object number 2 is a long-standing one on this channel, and it is my Radiant Stars cowl. I actually filmed this episode a few weeks ago, and it was a bit rushed, and I also wasn't feeling very well, so there's been a bit of a longer gap between episodes, so I've kind of forgotten that I'd finished this, because it actually warmed up in the UK quite significantly when I finish this cowl. So I haven't really had a chance. I've worn it once, but yeah, I will show it to you. So this is the cowl. It is a design by Ella Gordon. I think it was originally published in a Shetland Wool Week annual or magazine, but she now has it on Ravelry, and it is knit as one kind of long tube, and then you graft together the ends at the end, graft together the cast on with the live stitch, like the 2 sets of live stitches, because you cast on with a provisional cast on, and it creates this kind of double layered fabric. So it's super warm, and you might notice that I knit mine in slightly different colours to Ella's original, and I used the same 2 shades of yellow and the same red as Ella used, and then I used these 2 shades of like pink, salmony, mauve colours instead of the blue, because I think if you're not new to this channel, I don't really wear a lot of blue. So I'll try it on for you. So yeah, as you can see, it's quite long, so you can pull it up over your face like so. But yeah, it's really nice. Oh god, my hair. Yeah, it's really nice and warm, like perfect for wearing out. I think I'm going to get so much use out of this next winter. I can imagine it would be really good for like hiking or skiing. Haven't been skiing in a very long time, but maybe at some point when coronavirus decides to not be a thing, or you know, lessen. So the important thing I should mention is it's knit out of Jamieson & Smith jumper weight 2-ply. I'll have the colours listed down below, and I knit it on the original needles that are used in the pattern, so 3.25 and 3.75. So yeah, using those 2 different needles helps when you sew the 2 ends together, so it kind of pulls in the fabric on the inside, because the gauge is tighter. So yeah, I'm really loving this. It's actually quite cold today in Bristol, so my boyfriend just told me it was snowing near his office, so which is not here, even though we're not that far away. So yeah, this is perfect, and it's so warm, and I don't find Jamieson & Smith's or Shetland wool in general itchy, but obviously if you do, you could use something else. But yeah, this is my Radiant Star cowl, and I'm so glad it's finished, and it was also the first project off my Make 9 list that I spoke about either in the last episode or the episode before, and you can also see on my Instagram. So yeah, first Make 9 project completed, which is amazing, and yeah, that's kind of all I've got to say about it, so I'll take this off. And yeah, just really happy with it. So the next project I've got to talk about, I'm not sure if I showed in my last episode, but they are the Grow Socks by Fibre Tales, which is Larka, I believe is how you pronounce it. And I knit these out of the fibre company Amble, which is their kind of sock yarn, which is a merino, alpaca and recycled nylon blend with a more environmentally friendly superwash process. I can't remember the exact percentages of like the fibre, but it's, I think, mostly merino and then with some alpaca and maybe 10 or 15% recycled nylon. And the colourway is Applebee. So the Grow Socks are just a really simple, for the most part, vanilla sock, but they have this beautiful like leaf detail on them at the top by the cuff, and I just think it's so lovely. You can see it here as well. On my second sock, I did manage to mess up the cables a little bit, the little leaves. So you can see, I don't really know what happened, but to be honest, their socks, it was the second sock as well, and I was like, oh, I just don't really care enough to rip back, even though I wasn't very far in. So yeah, I just kind of left them. I haven't blocked these because I literally finished them this morning before work. Apologies for the very bright sunlight. It's really going in and out today, so it's not very consistent, sorry. And I just did a slip stitch heel with my usual garter bumps, and then followed the decreases, and then followed the directions for the toe as well. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to wearing these. The yarn is one that I have used twice before for presents for other people, because although I don't love to wear like a superwash merino nylon blend, it's obviously really, I don't mind hand washing my socks, but I don't really want to put that imposition on anyone else, apart from a few select people who I know like are happy to hand wash things, like my family members. And this, so yeah, I've used it for gift knits before, but I'd never used it for socks for myself. But I was really curious to try it because it's always felt really nice to knit with. So yeah, this is the colour in the skein. This is how much I've got left. It's slightly thicker than your usual sock yarn. I think it's about 370 meters per 100 grams. Oh no, 325 meters per 100 grams. And it's 70% wool, 20% alpaca and 10% nylon. Yeah, and this is the label. So it was really nice. I picked this up in Oxford when I was there last year, with the intention of making socks. And yeah, it's nice. The only thing I will say is I haven't noticed this when I've knit this before, so I'm not sure if this is just a batch thing or maybe this colour. But it seemed to shed quite a lot when I knit with it. So I would be knitting away, and this was, once I got past the cables, this was like my knitting during internal work meetings knitting, or like travel knitting, because it's obviously just like a plain vanilla sock after this bit. And I was noticing like quite a lot of fibre was ending up on my desk. So that was a bit weird, and I'm not sure if that, I hadn't really noticed that before with the other pairs that I've knit out of it. So yeah, let me know if you've ever experienced that with Amble. It wasn't like masses of fibre, and I wasn't sure also if it was maybe the alpaca fibre that's in here. But yeah, it was definitely like enough for it to be noticeable. Like I would like sweep it all up a little bit and put it in the bin. But yeah, I'm really excited to wear these and see how they wear. That 10% nylon will be interesting, and also this like easy wash process that they've got on them. They definitely feel nice to wear. They don't feel to me like a traditional 75-25 merino nylon blend. So yeah, I'll be interested to see how they wear. And yeah, this pattern is really lovely. I would definitely make it again. So now let's move on to some works in progress. So what should I talk about first? Sorry for the squinting. It's just very bright today. So my first work in progress is a gift, and it's one of kind of my last gift knits for a little while, and these are for my mum. I've told her not to watch this episode. And I am knitting her the Songbird mittens by Erica Huser, I believe is how you pronounce it. As usual, I'll have everything, all the patterns linked down below, as well as links to my project pages so you can see the yarns that I'm using. So this is what they look like. I have knitted one mitten. This is the left one, and I've just started the right. So here you go. This is how far I've gone, not very far. So today is one of the second to last day in March, and my mum's birthday is halfway through April. So I've got a bit of time, and I'm kind of just aiming to do a certain amount of rows a day. The pattern is really nice, it's really well written, but because the chart for the front is not a repetitive chart, you kind of always have to be looking at it. So it's not as easy to like knit in front of the TV because you kind of just have to be concentrating. So I knit a lot of this one while listening to a podcast, and that was actually really good. So maybe that's what I need to do for this one, or like an audiobook. So yeah, as you can see, they've got this beautiful bird motif on the front, and then this is the back. It's like this geometric kind of tile looking pattern, and then on the thumb you have this little flower. This is not blocked yet because I'm waiting to finish both of them before blocking, so hopefully it will all even out a bit. And I am knitting these on slightly smaller needles. I'm knitting them on 2.5, and I think the pattern calls for 2.75, but my gauge was a bit too big with that. And I'm knitting them out of Jamieson's Shetland Spindrift, which is very similar to Jamieson and Smith jumper weight, but it feels very slightly different. It feels, to me, it doesn't feel quite as soft as Jamieson's. And these are the colours I'm using. So this is 104 Natural White, and this is 160 Midnight, which I think is very close to the original colours that Erica knitted her sample with. I just think this blue and white is like a really classic colour combination, and it kind of reminds me of like blue and white china, and we have quite a bit of that at home, or my mum does at home, and I thought that would be like a nice reminder. And also, if you have watched my podcast before, you know that I knit my mum the Talvinin sweater by Caitlin Hunter for her birthday, for Christmas last year, and she really is like loves birds. She loves nature and whole. She's a very environmentally focused person. It's something she's like really passionate about, and like protecting endangered species. She's just, yeah, it's something she's very, very passionate about, and she's very knowledgeable about birds, as is my aunt. My grandma was a really keen bird watcher, so I think that's probably why. So yeah, I thought when I saw this pattern when I first began knitting, I kind of knew that I wanted to knit them for my mum at some point. So although giving them to her in April is maybe not the most practical time, I thought they were just like a perfect birthday gift, and I really hope she likes them. She does wear mittens, and I thought maybe when she was like riding her bike she'd find it helpful, and like going on walks and stuff. So yeah, these are the mittens. And yeah, this is how far I've gotten on the second one, which is the right mitten. So as you can see, I haven't made much progress, but I've done the whole cuff, and they have a really nice like thumb gusset as well, which is nice. And yeah, I'm knitting these on my Addi Sock Wonders, which have one needle tip which is slightly longer, which I really like. I will be right back. I'm gonna have to alter the lighting situation. Hello, I am back. Now I have hopefully altered the lighting a bit, so that it's not quite as bright and I'm not massively squinting into the camera. So yeah, that is whip number 1. Whip number 2 is a scarf number 1 by My Favourite Things Knitwear. It's a pattern that I've been wanting to knit for a while. I have knit the Snaranes, I believe is how you say it, kerchief by Gudrun Johnston, and I really wanted to knit another kind of neck scarf because I just really like how they look. And this one I was very much inspired by Meg of No Frills Knitting, whose shop is in Bristol, quite near to where I live. And yeah, so I actually went into No Frills Knitting a few weeks ago, and me and my boyfriend went over to Bedminster, which is pretty close, and we had a mooch around. There's quite a few good like antique shops, which my boyfriend likes, and yeah, it's just some really nice cafes. So yeah, I persuaded my boyfriend to go into No Frills with me, and he was pointing out at the sock yarn, like I was like, I know, I have some sock yarn waiting to be turned into socks for you. But yeah, they've got a few things. I got 2 yarns to kind of try and swatch with, and then this yarn, which is the Sandnes Garn Alpaca Silk, which is 70% baby alpaca, 30% mulberry silk, and the colourway is 2135, and it is this beautiful mustard golden colour. It's really beautiful. I'm not too sure if it suits my skin, but I don't really care. So yeah, this is what I've knit so far. I'm pretty close to finishing. I have got one more lace section to knit, and then I've just got a little bit more, and then I can bind off. So yeah, it's quite in comparison to the Snatterness. I'm really not sure on the pronunciation, I'm so sorry to all my Gaelic speakers who might be watching. So yeah, this is very long compared to the Snatterness, and it is not quite, it's not as deep, so it's less of like a V and more of a like very odd shaped triangle. But yeah, I'm really enjoying knitting it. It's a really nice pattern. It's nice and easy, so I can do this like when I'm working or watching TV, and I don't need to look at the pattern because it's very easy to memorize. And yeah, I really love this colour. I think it's quite reminiscent of the Woolly Knit Harvest colourway, which you can get on their Wharf Mill DK or their British Wool cones, which I'm sure you all know about because of Rebecca from the Crowbear podcast, who's a great ambassador for them. So it's a very similar colourway, and I just think it's lovely. It's like this kind of like dirty gold colour, and yeah, I just really like it. And Meg from No Frills had knitted quite a few of these, and she had a sample in the shop, which was beautiful, knit not out of this colour but another colour of alpaca silk, one of the brown colours, which was beautiful. And then I saw her sample and really regretted not buying the brown as well. I will say the stitches on this, you end up having so many stitches that it does get a bit, I found it to get a bit boring after a while. So I started off and I was like, oh, this is going so quickly, but because you just have so many, I mean, you can see how many stitches. I'm knitting the larger size as well. It is taking me a bit longer just because I'm less drawn to work on it, but now that I'm quite close to the finish line, I'm excited, and so I just want to finish it and get it off my needles. So hopefully I'll have that finished by the next podcast, as with, well, hopefully I'll have the mittens finished because they need to be gifted. And I'm just knitting out on the recommended needle size, which is 3.25. With anything like shawls or like neckerchiefs like that, I don't bother gauge swatching because, to be honest, like if my gauge is a bit off, it doesn't really matter. And I am just storing it in this little project bag that I made when I first started knitting. This was made out of some leftover Merchant and Mills linen that I made some cushions with for my dad, and it's really nice. It's like great for socks and like small projects. So yeah, that's WIP number 2. I've got more. WIP number 3 is another project from my Make 9 list, and it is held in this bag, which I mention in every episode. It's from the Blue Rabbit House, and it is my soiree sweater. So I've actually made quite a lot of progress on this, thankfully, because it felt like it was taking forever. So the soiree is a jumper pattern by Emily Foden, and it's in her book Knits About Winter, which is published by Pom Pom Press. It's a really beautiful, quite oversized jumper, and it's got some beautiful cable details running up the sides. And yeah, this is what I've got so far. I am going to have to cover my face, sorry. Yeah, so I've knitted the length of the body, and I have just separated for the back. So you can see here, this is what I've done. So not very much, I've only done like about a repeat and a half of the pattern. So I've got a few more to go, and I will show you what the sides look like. So excuse this yarn. It's got these 2 cables and then this kind of like honeycomb cable in the middle, and it's really lovely. It's a really nice pattern. I am knitting the size 4, which gives me about 35 centimeters of positive ease, which is a lot. Even for me, I like to wear baggy jumpers, but it's a lot of positive ease, and I think the recommended ease in the pattern is 30 to 40. I'm still not sure if I should have knit this size or the size below, but at this point I've knitted so much of it and it's taken me quite a long time that I'm just going with it, and I think it will work really nicely. It's quite an airy fabric. It's knit on a slightly looser gauge, you can see. This is knit on 4.5mm needles, which I believe is what was suggested in the pattern, and I got stitch gauge with that. I did not get row gauge, so I'm making a few alterations. Thank you so much to everyone who suggested what I should do in the last episode. It was so helpful, and yeah, I love this community. Everyone is so kind and so helpful with like recommendations and suggestions. So yeah, thank you so much, especially to Nikki and Nina for all your help with telling it. They're much better at knitting maths than I am, so that was really helpful. So yeah, I am super excited to carry on working on this. I love the colour. The yarn that I am using is John Arbon Yarnadelic, which is 100% Falklands Corriedale in the colourway Pink Moon. So this yarn range, all the yarn colours yarns are inspired by songs that are on vinyl that John Arbon owns. So he's a really big vinyl collector, and yeah, all the yarn shades are inspired by different songs from some of his vinyl. So Pink Moon is a song by Nick Drake, and it's a beautiful song. If you don't know it, I would go recommend. It's definitely one of my favourite songs. It's lovely. And yeah, I love this colour. It's like a browny pinky nude colour, which is like one of my favourites. So I'm holding this together with a silk mohair as suggested in the pattern, and the silk mohair I am using is this Knitting for Olive one. Their soft silk mohair, which is my favourite mohair, and it is rose clay colour. So they're obviously, slightly different in colour. This one's like paler, but I think they work out to be a really nice kind of mild shade. And oh, that's the bottom. This jumper is so big. Yeah, that's what I love about holding a mohair, like two different yarns together. I think the kind of colour opportunities you have is really lovely, and you can kind of see it's this like mottled appearance, and yeah, I just love that. So that is my soiree. I've made, as I said, quite a bit of progress. I had misread the pattern and I thought you had to do a lot more repeats on the body before you split than you actually did. So that really helped like get me motivated to split for the body. And I have added 2 extra pattern repeats because this is designed as like quite a cropped sweater, and I wanted it to be a bit longer, like more at my hips. So I added 2 pattern repeats, which should add quite not a significant, but like add enough length for me. So yeah, this is my soiree, and hopefully by the next episode I will have made even more progress and maybe finished the back and maybe rejoined for the front. We'll see. But I'm really enjoying it. Now that I'm at the purling stage where you're kind of knitting back and forth, obviously I'm probably going to be going a bit more slowly, but it's good to practice my purling. I try to avoid it, so I'm just trying to embrace it. And yeah, that is that. I think I don't have anything else to say about it. My last 2 knitting works in progress are my Story Knits Cal projects. So the first one is like my kind of big project. I'm using it in this project bag that I made again a while ago, quite soon after I began knitting seriously. This fabric is Rifle Paper Company cotton canvas. I can't remember what the name of it is. I think it's like Wild Strawberry or Strawberry Fields. I could be confusing that with the William Morris fabric. I think it was from their collection last year. It's really, I love Rifle Paper Company fabrics. They're quite expensive, but the quality of the ones I've used has always been really good. And if you saw my Story Knits Cal announcement, you will have seen that I am planning on knitting, or was planning on knitting and have now started knitting, the Norfolk in Paris jumper by Vanessa Palisa, which I will put a photo of even here or here. And it is a top-down colourwork yoke jumper inspired by the book Mariana by Monica Dickens, which is one of my favourite books of all time. It was republished by Persephone Press, which if you've watched my channel before, you know I love. And when I found this pattern, that kind of what inspired this whole knit along. So I cast this on the 20th of March, and I haven't made a huge amount of progress, to be honest. This is what so I'm trying to untangle all my yarn because as usual, it's all over the place. So it's also on too short a cable, so forgive me. This is what I've got so far. So it's curling up slightly, but this is what I've got. So I am knitting this out of De Rerum Natura Ulysse, which is a non-superwash kind of merino yarn that is produced in France. I believe it's a blend of French and maybe some Spanish or Portuguese merino. It's a really lovely yarn. I've used it quite a lot in the past, and I haven't used, but I have some Gilliatt, which is like the chunkier worsted version. Ulysse comes in at about a sport/DK weight. It's quite airy, so you can knit it at I'd say like a few different gauges. I mean, if you knitted it really tightly, I think you would maybe like a heavy fingering weight, maybe. No, more like a sport/DK. But it's a lovely yarn. And yeah, the pattern I'm really enjoying so far. It's kind of laid out differently to other colourwork jumpers I've knitted, but I'm enjoying that. It's really nice. And yeah, this is the progress. So as you can see, I've knit the neckband, and I'd say I'm about halfway through the colourwork yoke. And at the moment, it is looking pretty short in terms of like the depth of the yoke. So we'll see. I might just have to knit in stockinette with the main colour for a bit longer. You knit it to a specified length anyway. These are my floats. I never know if people like want to see these or not. There isn't I don't think you have to catch floats at all so far, which has been nice. Yeah, I don't think I have actually. So yeah, this is the back. I haven't kind of been using Vanessa's suggested technique for avoiding this kind of colourwork jog, just because it doesn't massively bother me. Here's my stitch marker. This is from Orchard's Heart, who I have a set of her stitch markers as a prize for this cal. And you can see the 2 prizes that I've got so far in the announcement video. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this. I've just been really focusing on my soiree because I really wanted to get a good, like probably the whole body finished maybe before I start working on this again, because the cal goes up until nearly the end of June. I feel like I've got quite a bit of time, but I am really enjoying this. I just haven't worked on it in about a week. So the colours I am using are, the main colour is Poivre et Sel by Ulysse, which, oh gosh, my lighting's really blowing out today, but it's like this beautiful kind of oatmeal colour. I am using a kind of rusty red, rusty browny orangey red colour, which I love this colour as well. And this is Érable. Sorry for my French pronunciation. And then the other colour oh no, there's 2 more colours. I am using this like cream white, which is Cell, I believe. And then I am using this kind of brown colour, which is Caramel. So yeah, those are quite close to the original colours that Vanessa used in her sample, except she used more of a like bright yellow rather than the brown that I am using. And she used Woolen Twine Rustic Merino Sport, which is a yarn I haven't tried, and it's Woolen Twine work with like shop updates, and I hadn't seen it in some of her recent shop updates, so I just thought I'd go for the Ulysse. It's a lot easier for me to get hold of in the UK because of Brexit, which we won't talk about because I'll just get annoyed. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I just haven't worked on it much recently. So that is my first Story Knits Cal whip, and I will hopefully have worked on it a bit more by the next episode, so you can see a bit more of the colour work yoke. And also I should mention now that Vanessa is very kindly offering a discount code for her patterns for 20% off, and the code is just Story Knits Cal. I will leave it down below and I'll leave all the information. But yeah, a lot of her patterns are inspired by stories, so they would be a great choice. This is the first time I'm using one of her patterns, but she's got some beautiful ones. So yeah, if you fancy knitting one of her patterns, either for this Cal or for something else, you can use the code that I've got down below, which is very kind of her, so thank you, Vanessa. And my second whip for the Cal is a pair of socks. So I mentioned last time that I would knit or in that special episode where I discussed the Cal, that I would be knitting the Elven Woods socks by This Handmade Life. And I spoke about using a different yarn for them, but I actually ended up buying a new yarn, and it is this beautiful kind of dark green colour. It's really difficult to show you, but this is beautiful. It's so rich in all the different tones. You can see it's lighter and darker in some colours, in some areas. Oh, it's just beautiful, and it's very shiny, and it just really, yeah, looks very emerald like. And this is a new to me yarn dyer. They're called It's a Stitch Up. And this base is the Favourite Sock, and it is 100% merino wool superwash, found in Argentina, spun in Peru, and it's 365 meters per 100 grams. And the colourway is called Monstera, and hand dyed in East London, which is really cool. So not too far from me. So yeah, I mentioned earlier that I don't usually knit with superwash yarn, but this was just I was really struggling to find a dark green yarn in a base that wasn't a 75-25 superwash merino nylon, which I know that I don't particularly like. So yeah, I thought I would try 100% superwash merino, see what it's like, and I'm really enjoying knitting with it. It's definitely got that superwash feeling, but also that I'm sure is probably what helps the yarn look so beautiful and shiny, and I think it really works for this pattern. So this is what I've got so far, and these are inspired by Lord of the Rings, which I have only ever read The Hobbit, but I grew up watching the Lord of the Rings films. My mum is a really big fan. She loves the books and the films, so yeah, they're very nostalgic for me. Yeah, I grew up like watching a lot of them, well, and rewatching them. We had them on video, on VHS, so I just remember watching them with my mum. And yeah, I will be rewatching the films at some point, hopefully. I'm trying to convince my boyfriend to rewatch them with me, but I probably will end up either watching them on my own or maybe with my mum at some point. But they've got this beautiful like lace pattern. You can't see it very well, but it's beautiful. And yeah, definitely you can tell it's inspired by Lord of the Rings and the elves, and kind of, I think particularly, I'm not sure what it's called, but where Galadriel kind of lives. Yeah, it's beautiful. So that is my second whip for the Story Knits Cal. And yeah, please let me know if you're taking part or plan to take part in the comments below. I'd love to know what you're knitting on for the Cal, and let's talk about sewing. So sewing wise, I have got quite a bit to talk about. Firstly, I have a finished object. I have got my Orchards dress that I spoke about in the last episode, which is a pattern by Vivian Xiao Shen, I believe, and it's a really beautiful pattern. I've made it before. This time I added some sleeves to it, so I used the sleeve pattern from Anna Allen's Anthea blouse, which is a really nice like blouse pattern with puff sleeves. So I added on the sleeves and I did the full length version, and I used a gingham cotton from Wild Orchard Fabrics. I bought it at the beginning of last year, so I don't think they have it anymore, but it's a lovely fabric. It was lovely to work with, and yeah, I finished it. So I'll insert a photo, or I will have inserted a photo so you can see what it looks like on. But yeah, it's a lovely pattern. I would really recommend it. She's just released a sleeve expansion, which I would definitely purchase, and I think also it includes some instructions on doing a full bust adjustment and a full, maybe there's definitely like quite a lot of different like instruction add-ons. So I know there's like like she tells you how to make a top version, the full bust adjustment, and then there's quite a few different sleeve patterns that you can add as well. So I'll definitely be buying that, because although the Anthea works really well, it would just be nice to have some more sleeve options for it, because I love the pattern so much. I find it really comfortable to wear. It's exactly the kind of style of dress I like. I like quite flowing sack dresses, as some people probably would call them. I just find them really comfortable, and yeah, easy to move about in when I'm not wearing trousers. So yeah, I really glad I finished that, and I wore it to my birthday party that I had with one of my best friends. Our birthdays are about 3 days apart, so we usually do something to celebrate together, and this year we were able to have a gathering. Wasn't really a party, with all our friends, which was really lovely. And it was after 2 years of having birthdays kind of impacted by COVID, including travel plans. We were supposed to go to Paris 2 years ago, together with one of our other friends. So yeah, after having that impacted, it was just really nice to be able to celebrate together. We used to live together, so yeah, it was just really special. So I'm really glad I could wear that dress for that occasion. And the other kind of sewing things I have been doing is I picked up a dress that I haven't worked on in a while, and it is the Claudia dress by Tessuti Fabrics. So they have their own line of patterns. I think they're an Australian brand, and it is, will you be able to see this? I'll have inserted a photo. It's a kind of strappy, quite high necked, square necked dress, and it's just very straight. There's not really any shaping in it, and then it's got side splits at the side, which I think are really nice because it's quite a long dress, so it's nice to have that kind of range of movement. And this is what I've done so far. So I had done a lot of the work on this last summer, and then I ran into a bit of a fitting issue, which I hadn't anticipated happening. I had made a toile, amazingly. It's not something I do all the time, but I do for like quite expensive fabrics. And I had made my toile and thought that the fit was fine, and then I made it in this linen, which is from Merchant and Mills, which we all know I love, but it is on the pricier side. So I do usually make toiles when I make things with this fabric, just because I really don't want to waste the fabric. And I ran into a bit of a fitting error, which I definitely should have known about. I'm just a bit of a lazy sewer sometimes. And the issue is, so this is I have to say now, this isn't a size inclusive pattern. It goes up to an 18. I'm not sure if that's a UK 18, a US 18, or an Australian 18. But yeah, Taziti Fabrics, most of their patterns I believe are not very size inclusive. On the whole, I always do try to make things with size inclusivity, that, you know, if I really try to knit things or sew things and make things that have patterns that are size inclusive. It's really, really important to me. I'm not perfect though, and yeah, have messed up, and I will probably email Taziti to ask if that's something they're going to be doing, because yeah, it's just something I strongly believe in, but obviously I'm not perfect, and I sometimes just do want to say things, which I understand is like a big privilege that not everyone has. So I am sewing the largest size, which is not good. It's not good that I am the largest size. That there should be far more sizes. And the issue I'm having is that I have my full bust measurement is very different to my upper chest measurement. So there is, I can't remember the exact difference, but it's over 2 inches, I think. And yeah, that means that I really probably should do full bust adjustments. Do I do full bust adjustments? No, because I'm a lazy sewer. So full bust adjustment is when you make an adjustment when you've got a significant difference in your upper chest and your full bust measurement. I hope I'm explaining that right. It's not something I like fully understand because I have never done one, and usually try to eliminate me having to do them by either very roughly hacking something or not doing or sewing oversized clothes, which, you know, works great for me, but it's probably not what I would recommend doing. So the issue I'm having here, or did have here, was that it was very gapey at the top, but it was fitted on my bust. So yeah, could have solved that, didn't solve that. So what I did instead was I just shaved off a bit of the side seam and kind of did it at an angle. So obviously this is all sewn up now, but I basically went in like that and sewed a line like that, and that mostly fixed it. I am not saying that is how you should do that. It's not the recommended way of like fixing a fit issue, and it definitely hasn't completely fixed it. It sits a bit better when I have it higher up than it probably should be, and this is still a little bit gapey, this kind of top part, but it works, and I'm happy with it. I think it's a really lovely dress still, and I'm really looking forward to finishing it. I was waiting on my thread because I had run out of the right thread colour, and I was about to do some top stitching, so I wanted the right thread colour. So now that that has arrived, I will happily crack on with this and hopefully get it finished, so I'll be able to show you some finished photos in the next episode. And yeah, I will probably wear this and over some t-shirts for the time being, but then in the summer it'll be great as like a light flowy dress. And yeah, it's got pockets, so yeah, it's great. But yeah, as I mentioned, I'm not at all size inclusive, and that is something I will be emailing the pattern company about to see if they have plans to expand the size range. Otherwise I won't be buying any more of their patterns, put it that way. So yeah, that is my first sewing work in progress. And then my next one is my quilted coat. So you might have seen before, if you've watched my previous episodes, that I bought a secondhand commercially, what I think is commercially made quilt. It's more of like a, I wouldn't maybe describe it as a quilt because there's no patchwork in it. But I bought these 2 single commercially made quilts in a charity shop at the end of last year, and I decided that I was going to make a coat out of them. It was just too good to pass up, and I have cut out the pattern pieces. So this is the quilt fabric. It's quite in your face, but I really like that. And this is the back piece. So the pattern I'm using for this is the Havia jacket by Megan Nielsen, which comes in a wide range of different views. So you can do it unlined, you can line it. I'm doing it unlined because this is the reverse of the fabric and I'm happy with that, and I also didn't want to add too much extra bulk, and I wanted to kind of keep the costs down for this project. Also, I think a white quilted jacket might look quite nice. You can make this reversible, so yeah, I mean, I probably wouldn't wear it like that, but it's nice to have the option. And yeah, so I've cut out all my pattern pieces for it. I've started making the bias binding. I'm making the quilt, it was more of like a quilt top, and then it had like this I think it's called a valance, which is like a ruffle that goes around the edge, which was not quilted. It was just like an unquilted like the exact same fabric but unquilted, and it was like pleated and gathered to create this kind of like frill that would go, when it was sitting on a bed, would go around the edge of the bed like here. So I unpicked all of that from one of the quilts and used that to make the binding so that the binding would all match. I was toying with the idea of doing a contrast, but I thought, why not just use what I've already got? It's really nice fabric. I think it's 100% cotton. We'll see. I'm not sure about the batting, but I think the fabric feels like an 100% cotton. And yeah, I'm excited to make some progress. I am making view F of the coat, which is the cropped version, and I'm going to do little ties, and yeah, I'm just really excited for it. Now that the weather's warming up and I'm not wearing like my winter coats, I definitely will get a lot of use out of like a lighter weight jacket. So yeah, I'm very excited, and I will definitely be sharing progress in future episodes. So the last kind of sewing thing I've got to talk about is my quilt that I'm making. So I started making this in February, and I am using a pattern called the Meadowland quilt by Then Came June, I think. I'm not very au fait with quilt patterns, and this is one of the blocks. So I'm making the smallest size, which is made up of 9 blocks. So this is one of them, and I got another one to show you. I have made all 9 now. They're really lovely, and I am using fabric from Ruby Star Society, the Heirloom collection, and then the plain white is a Kona Solids, I believe is what it's called. It's by Robert Kaufman. I think it's like a very standard quilting cotton that a lot of quilters use. It comes in like an amazing variety of colours. So yeah, I have finished all 9 quilt blocks. So what I need to do now is sew them together, and then I need to actually do the quilting. So I have got everything. I've got my backing fabric, which I need to probably cut to size, or like make sure it's all pieced together in the right way. And then I have the batting. I've got a cotton batting, I think, or a wool one. It was definitely like a natural fibre. And then yeah, my quilt top. So once I've sewn these all together, I can get along with basting. And this is where I'm going to ask for some advice. If you've made a quilt before, how have you basted it? Have you just used the safety pins, like the curved safety pins? Have you used glue? You can get like a spray glue, I think, that I've also used in upholstery before. I'm not sure if it's the same thing, but it kind of feels like it sounds similar. So yeah, if you're a quilter, let me know. I'm a bit reluctant to use the glue simply because I just, why would I'm not sure if I want to use this like spray glue that I'll have to use outside to do it. It just seems silly when I could use pins. But if it's a lot easier, yeah, just let me know like what you prefer and why. That would be really helpful. I'm leaning more towards the pins, but I just don't know if it will move about a lot if I use the safety pins, whereas if I use a spray basting glue, maybe that will be easier and make it more manageable. Yeah, I just really appreciate your insight. It's definitely not going to look perfect. Some of my seams are already a bit wonky. We'll see if any of these are, oh yeah, you can kind of even see here they're not perfectly even, so I'm not gonna be upset if it's a little bit wonky, because to me that's the beauty of handmade things, is that they are all a bit wonky. So yeah, I would appreciate any advice, and yeah, I'm looking forward to finishing it. It feels like I've actually gone quite quickly. I think I got really into it, but I've got quite a few, well, I've got a lot of fabric that I need to sew through. I've got quite a few garments that I need to sew. So yeah, the quilt is kind of taking a bit of a back seat for now. So finally, let's talk a little bit about FiberQuest, which is a fibre festival that I went to on the 20th of March. It was over the 19th and the 20th. The 19th was my birthday, so I didn't go then because I had plans, but I went on the 20th with my mum, who very kindly took me. I can't drive, but she can, and I thought she might enjoy it, so I kind of asked her if we could go for my birthday. She very kindly agreed. I booked myself onto a spinning class, and which I'll talk about in more detail in a bit. And yeah, it's quite near me. So I live in Bristol and my mum lives in Bath, so she drove over, picked me up, and we drove there together. It's in the Mendips, which is like south of Bristol and Bath. It's a beautiful area. I love the Mendips. And it was held at Fernhill Fibre Farm, I believe is what it's called, which has a mix. It's like a regenerative farm, and they have sheep there, and they are I believe a Shetland Romney cross breed of sheep. I believe, I could be getting that wrong. So this year they teamed up with, I think, Stitch Fest and created FiberQuest. And it was quite a small fibre festival, but they still had stall holders, they had workshops, they had talks, they had live blade shearing, which was really interesting. You could go and watch, and yeah, it was really nice. It was the first year of running it, so I think it was quite small, like there were like two kind of medium-sized marquees with like all the stall holders in, so it definitely wasn't like a massive festival, but it was nice. There was a real emphasis on local fibre, British fibre, non-superwash, no nylon, natural dyeing, so it was a really nice like selection of vendors. Yeah, it was quite small, and I would say it definitely is maybe not as because it was the first year of doing it, they were still figuring things out, which is like totally understandable. Like, it's a big event to run, but I think they did a good job of it. I'm not sure if I'd go back again, just because I don't know, like I maybe I would, because it was, for me it's a bit difficult to get there, because although you could get a shuttle bus, I wanted to be that was only running like once, and then it was running from Bristol Temple Meads to the festival in the morning and then back at a certain time in the afternoon, and I just wanted a bit more flexibility, and luckily my mum drove me, so that was really kind of her. So yeah, it was a bit, obviously they did have the option to do that, but I'm not sure. I usually I like that flexibility, is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, that is kind of rural, but I really liked that. I liked they had a really good mix of things. They had some really nice stall holders. I don't know if it was enough for me to go back another year. I think it depends. I think maybe if they do it again in the future, they'll probably have more vendors. And yeah, I was also feeling quite sick. I had this horrible cold, which is not COVID, has been going around my whole family and friendship group, and I was suffering a bit, and also probably a little bit hungover from my birthday the day before, so maybe I would not be in that state next year. But it was, yeah, really lovely. And I went to a 1 hour introduction to spinning class, which was held by a woman called Beck, I believe. I'll leave her link down below. She was great. She had one of her friends helping her out as well, who was really lovely. And it was a kind of introduction to wheel spinning. So I have a drop spindle. I'm really not very good at it. I know it's like a practice thing. But I love the idea of using a wheel. It's something I really want to get maybe next year. We'll see when I've maybe got a bit more space. Although you can get very compact wheels. So we were taught how to use an Ashford traditional. Because it was only an hour, it's, you know, there's only so much you can cover, and spinning is such a wide topic. So we really just covered how to use the wheel and how to spin. We didn't cover plying or like how to prepare the fibre, but that is, you know, I think we covered a lot for 1 hour. I thought it was really good value. I think the class was £20, but that included as like much fibre as you wanted, and the tuition, which was really one-on-one tuition, which was, I thought was really good. And yeah, I would definitely go back to, I know Beck does like whole day classes, so I would definitely go back and do one of those if I could get to where she is based. Again, it's a bit more rural, so you kind of have to drive, I believe. But yeah, I would really recommend her. I think her classes were great. And it was really, really nice to learn about spinning on a wheel, and kind of reaffirmed that I really want to learn. So this is what I made. This very bad, not bad, this very interesting fibre. As you can see, it's not, can I show you over here? It's not consistent. It's very thick in some places, like here, and it's very thin in other places. If you can see that. This is a Shetland, single ply Shetland, and we got little labels to write on. I'm not sure about the meterage. I'm not sure what I'll use this for, if anything, but I will keep it forever because it was my first thing I spun on a wheel, and to me that's, oh look, I've even got a bit of fibre in it, or a bit of, yeah, bit of hay, as usual. That doesn't really bother me at all. Yeah, so it was a really lovely class, and yeah, I'm definitely keen to do more spinning in the future when I've got the space / finances to do so. Then I did make 2 small purchases. To be honest, I have so much yarn at the moment that I really didn't want to buy a lot of yarn. And also I've got quite a few months coming up, so I didn't really want to splurge on any yarn, but I did want to buy some things. So I only bought 2 things. And the first was from Gulrock Fibres, who I follow on Instagram. I followed them for a while, and they are a natural dyer that uses like British wool. They have beautiful yarns. They also sell fibre, and I had a really lovely chat with the owner. They were really lovely. So yeah, this is what I bought. Oh gosh, sorry, you're not going to be able to see it very well. Is this a bit better? Yeah, there you go. This is it's reading a bit more orangey. It's a bit more pinky brown on screen. As you can tell, I love a good pinky brown. This is a BFL and Gotland 4-ply fingering. It's British wool and it's spun by Laxton's, and it's 350 meters per 100 grams. And this is the colourway Foxy, which is dyed with sweet chestnut husks. So what I really like about Gulrock Fibres is that they write what the colour is, how the colour's made. So what what kind of plants or materials they've used to dye. I think that's so cool and yeah, really interesting. And I think I am going to use this in a shawl project at some point, maybe a Vertices Unite, which I have got on my Make 9. But to be honest, I just really love the colour. I could also use it for a hat or a cowl. Yeah, I'm not really sure, but it's a lovely colour. And yeah, I could have bought so much more of her yarn. I just was really trying to be sensible with and not go over budget. And yeah, she had some really beautiful sport weight yarns that were just beautiful, like in a really beautiful golden colour. but I just didn't know what I'd use them for, so I resisted. But yeah, I will definitely be purchasing from her again, and yeah, would really recommend checking her out. The other place I purchased from was a shop that I hadn't heard of before called Allium Threads, which again is more naturally dyed wool. So this is their Petiole 4-ply. And this is actually 100% Romney Cross Shetland lamb, first clip, pure new wool from a regenerative farm. So this is the wool that they spin at Fernhill, and then naturally dyed by Allium Threads. So I bought the beautiful colour, it's just called Chlorophyllin. I'm not sure if that's like what it's dyed with, or if that's the colour name, or if the colour name is 99277. But this is 50 grams and it's approximately 187 metres, and it's just this beautiful green colour. I was stood at their stall for ages trying to decide what to get. They had a DK weight yarn that was very similar to this colour, and I really wanted to buy it, but I resisted because I already bought this. And I was like, you don't need 2 brownie pinks in your life. So yeah, I bought this, and at the time I was like, oh, I don't know what I'll use it for, but I want to buy it because it's from Fernhill Fibre and it's naturally dyed and I love the colour. And now actually I think it'll be really good for colour work. So yeah, I don't have a project in mind as of yet, but I think definitely will use it for some colour work in the future. It's definitely more rustic, it's not as soft, but I suppose that comes from the Romney. And yeah, I think it's just a single ply. Yeah, a single ply. Spinners, tell me if I'm right. Lighting. But yeah, it's lovely. And yeah, me and my mum spent a while talking to the woman that owns Allium Threads. She was so lovely. I mean, as was the lady that runs Gull Rock Fibres. And yeah, she was really, really interesting. She had like loads of her kind of materials that she uses to dye. She had like examples of all of them. So that was so interesting to learn about. And yeah, it was just really nice to have a chat with her. And I think my mum enjoyed it herself. She had a nice day. Obviously she doesn't knit. She isn't massively interested in learning to knit. I mean, she can knit. She has actually made things for me when I was younger. And she's a very crafty person, but she doesn't knit or sew massively. So I was a bit worried she maybe wouldn't enjoy it, but she actually, I think, did. And she's very interested in like environmental things. So I think she enjoyed that kind of aspect of it being like local, and learning about like local fibre production. And there was a stall there that was, I can't remember what they were called. I think it was like Innovation in Agriculture. And they were really interesting, and we spoke to the woman that was from that charity or organisation for a while, because I find that subject very interesting, and so does my mum. So yeah, we had a good old chat to her. And yeah, it was a really nice event. Yeah, would go again and hopefully would be feeling better. But I had a lovely time, and it was, yeah, really nice to see all these kind of southwest businesses. And yeah, their Blacker yarns were there, and I was quite tempted by some of their yarn. Yeah, loads of amazing yarn dyers. Bluebell yarns were there, but I'm really trying to resist buying any new sock yarn, but they do have a no nylon non superwash sock yarn I want to try. So maybe I'll have to go back in the future and get some on their website. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this very kind of long, and I hope it wasn't too disjointed, video. Please let me know what you have been knitting on, or what you are knitting on, if you're sewing, any other crafts you do. And I hope you're enjoying spring, or autumn if you're in the southern hemisphere. It's been kind of mixed here. It's been sunny some days, and then it was really heavily raining yesterday, which was horrible. Cycling in the rain is not my favourite thing. And I have been enjoying doing a lot of foraging. So I have picked quite a bit of wild garlic, which I love. I was introduced to it a few years ago by one of my best friends, who is a very keen wild garlic forager, and she makes a lot of things with wild garlic, which I love. She's very talented. So yeah, I've been foraging some wild garlic. I have been foraging some nettles for the first time. So I'm going to make some nettle cordial, which I will hopefully enjoy and will maybe share on Instagram. I've found some gorse, so I'm going to be doing some stuff with gorse. And yeah, just enjoying all that spring has to offer. I love foraging. It's like the combination of creating food or like edible things as well as being in nature is honestly like the dream combination for me. So yeah, that's been bringing me a lot of joy, and I've even dragged my boyfriend along with me. And yeah, it's been really nice. I'm hoping to do some more tomorrow with my afternoon off. I've been for my first swim in the sea this year, in the open water. Last summer I joined a kind of outdoor swimming lake in Bristol that's like a membership only one. I'd been on the waiting list for ages, along with a friend, my best friend, and we finally got offered a kind of partial membership last year. So I went last summer, not as probably as much as I could have done. It's quite expensive, but I am hoping to go a lot more this summer. Now I have a bike again because my boyfriend for Christmas made me a bike, which was amazing. He kind of put together lots of different parts, and that it was finally ready. It needed a bit more work doing on it, and we ended up changing the handlebars, so I now have that, and I'm so glad because it means I can cycle again. My last bike was stolen, which I was very upset about. It was very precious to me, as well as being a gift from my parents. It was quite expensive, and and also I don't drive, so it was my main way of getting about if I wasn't walking or getting the bus, and I was most frustrated when that got stolen. So yeah, it was a really thoughtful and lovely gift from my boyfriend, and yeah, it's been really good to cycle around again. I just love being able to cycle on a bike. I think it's the best thing. And so convenient. So yeah, I've been really enjoying that. And yeah, after this long ramble, I was saying I swam in the sea for the first time. It was very cold. I only managed about 10 minutes, but it was lovely. So yeah, let me know how you've been, what you're up to, if you're doing any foraging. As always, be careful when foraging plants. Make sure you're with someone that knows what they're doing, or that you know what things are. Be really careful. But yeah, I hope you're having a good week, and I will speak to you all soon. Bye.